Once you've gone through and set proper levels for your clips and keyframe the areas that need interclip adjustments, you might need to go through and do some further combining and mixing. So let's take a look at how to do that. All right, so we know that our primary audio, our voices here, are on A1, and we have our music down here on A2. And while our music is just one clip, our interview audio is made up of lots of different clips. So I want to find a way to adjust all of my voices at once to make them all louder or all quieter in one fell swoop. And fortunately, that's pretty easy. So I'm going to open up my audio track mixer, and I can do that under Window and Audio Track Mixer. All right, and I'm going to come down here to my timeline, and I need to increase the size of my A1 and A2 tracks because I need to be able to see a certain keyframe icon, okay? You can't see it right now, but I'm going to increase the size, and there it is right here. So I'm going to go A1 and A2 and give myself a little more room here. Okay, and so let's take a look at this. I'm going to click on this button and switch from clip keyframes to track keyframes volume, all right? And take a look at all of my various clip adjustments. They're going to go away, and now I have one flat track adjustment. And I can do the same thing for A2. So even though this is one clip, we do have these keyframes, and when I switch over from clip keyframes to track keyframes, those disappear, and I again have the ability to affect just my track. And I want to be clear, the keyframes aren't gone, they're still there, we're just not able to see them because right now we're making a different type of adjustment. So let's say that I got some feedback that in general I need to raise my dialogue level slightly and lower my music level slightly. So I can do this in the timeline. I can grab this line and I can drag this all up, and you can see that my little pop-up tells me by how much. So I'm about 1 decibel, 0.98 decibels. I can release this, and I can bring this all down at once. So I can bring this down by something close to 1 decibel. I can also perform these adjustments in the audio track mixer. So if I come to A1, for example, I can grab this slider and drag it up and down. And I can also type in here a specific amount. So if I want exactly 1, I'll just type in 1 and enter. And over here, I can do -1 and enter. And then down here at the end, I have a master slider. So I'm able to affect everything, all of my tracks at once. And by the way, I do have a master track down here as well in the timeline. Now, in addition to making broad adjustments, I can keyframe this. So if I wanted to come in here and add some keyframes, I'm command clicking here, control clicking on a PC, and I can keyframe on a track level, and this is on top of the intraclip adjustments that I have at the clip level. So as I go from track keyframes to clip keyframes, you can see that both of these are active and they're working in tandem with one another. Now, this probably doesn't make much sense, so I'll go ahead and delete these keyframes. All right, so that's all fairly straightforward, but let's say that I have some elements on different tracks. I've got a sequence here, mix 2, and on A1 I have Barbara's dialogue, and on A2 I have anyone who is not Barbara. So I have Rebecca here, and I have Jeannie here. Okay? And sometimes you do this. You put different person's dialogue on different tracks so that you can easily make track-based adjustments. But if I sort of want to recombine everything to make one big adjustment, I certainly can. And I do that by creating a submix track. So I just come up to Sequence and then Add Tracks. And I come down to Audio Submix Track. And you can add as many as you want. Here I just want to add 1. And I want to make it adaptive. And I'll say OK. And here it is at the end. We have submix 1. You can also see in the timeline that here it is right here, okay? So how do we do this? Well, all of my audio tracks right now are feeding into the master, okay? Instead, what I want to have happen is for A1 and A2 to feed into the submix track. So I just come to A1, and then I come to the top here, and right now it's feeding into the master. I switch this to submix 1. And I'll switch A2 to submix 1. And now I can come over to submix 1 and make these changes, and these changes are going to be affected on A1 and A2 that are feeding into the submix. And by the way, the submix is feeding into the master, so if I wanted to make any master adjustments, it would still affect all of these tracks. Again, you can create as many submixes as you want. You can have a voices submix track, a music submix track, a sound effects submix track, and so on and so forth. All right, so as you can see, making these track-based adjustments, whether it's by individual track or whether it's via submix tracks or the master track, is a pretty easy and straightforward process.